What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Man, it just feels so good to be talking about Halo in the current and now. My last few videos have just been kind of catch up, getting things out that I've already recorded, so it feels good to kind of just be back in the saddle, talking about things as they happen, or, you know, just current things that are going on with Halo. And today, we're going to be talking about the new Halo Paramount TV show. And I know it's been controversial, to say the least. I know that there's been a lot of sayings of opinions out there. And I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I'm going to kind of give my opinion on what I think of the show so far. But I do want to first state that this episode was by far my favorite episode in the series. I'm thinking about some of those moments that we saw in this last episode, and I'm just grinning because, oh my gosh, that was Halo. And I can't overstate how awesome it was to be in that seat and just chill and watch a good Halo action sequence, because that's what it boils down to. The action in this episode was tried and true Halo, and you know, there was some stuff in the beginning and towards the end after the battle that was kind of but I'm starting to get there. Even with the non-battle stuff, I'm starting to appreciate and like what's going on. But without getting too far ahead of ourselves, let's start with what I've thought about the show so far. I want to get this out of the way. There is way too much booty in this show. This is the first episode in many episodes where we haven't seen a butt. And, you know, maybe this makes me a prude that I just don't want to see booty in my Halo TV show. But you know what? I think it's really dumb that they show Master Chief's butt. They show another Spartan's butt. They show the Blessed One's butt. They show this random dude on Madrigal's butt. I mean, he's not random, he's part of the story, but still, I don't want to see it. But they won't show us the butt we want to see. Maybe they're saving that for season 2. I don't know. And I can already hear my wife in the other room just cackling, okay? Jokes aside, I just think it's funny that they did clothe Cortana, and yet they're still perfectly comfortable showing a bunch of naked people on the show. I don't need a naked Cortana. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to prove a point that there's way too much butt in this show for the stances they've taken on other things. Aside from the nudity, there's a bunch of things that I just think don't line up with the characters and with the story. There's so many things that aren't very faithful to Halo. Yes, of course, I know it's not supposed to be right one-in-one line with the Halo games or the books. I know that. They're going for something else, but there's certain things that I'm like, Master Chief wouldn't do that. Master Chief wouldn't say that. One of the biggest examples to me, as you guys are probably also aware, is when he just lost his cool in the cell with that guy and he just started yelling. But then in the next episode, he goes and takes out his emotional suppressant. That doesn't line up. He was already irrational and emotional, so why does he need to take out that emotional suppressant? Even with the universe that they're setting up, they're just not obeying their own rules, it seems. And yeah, we got to talk about Chief's helmet, because I'm not against it coming off. We know it comes off in the books, we know it comes off in the games, and we know that he has to take it off sometimes. So it's not a huge deal that he takes off the helmet to me, especially when we're supposed to be living with him in this series from like night to morning, or in morning to night. We're supposed to be with him the whole time. This show does not jump a lot of times, so I get that we're gonna see him take off his helmet, and I'm actually not opposed to him taking off his helmet. But he doesn't leave it on for when it's actually important. It just doesn't make sense as to why or when he takes off the helmet or puts it back on. Like in last week's episode, when he was on that Warthog ride with Halsey, he gets to his destination all armored up, so he's suspecting that there might be combat involved. But guess what? Once he gets out of the Warthog, he takes his helmet off. Why? That just doesn't make sense to me. Even in this week's episode, that I do like a lot, after the battle's over, he goes up to this Blessed One, not knowing her intentions. He just sees that she's a human, goes up with her with a gun, sees that she's a human, and then takes his helmet off. That doesn't make sense. Why would he take his helmet off? It's still a combat zone. You don't know if there's Kig-Yar or grunts lying around. You have protection. Why are you taking your helmet off in a battle zone? It baffles me. It gets me heated, but it just baffles me more than anything. So I don't feel like my grievances are really anything that hasn't been said before, so I'm just going to leave it there. I've had a lot of people asking me what I thought about the show, so I just want to get my point across at the beginning of this video so you guys know. I am not liking the whole series, but this episode is getting me in the right direction. So let's start talking about this week's episode. If I like it so much, let's talk about the things I do like and why I think this is the best episode in the series yet. For starters, there's just so much more interaction with the Covenant. We got to see grunts, jackals, and brutes in this series for the first time and they just did such a good job at capturing their different representation on the battlefield and just how they look. They all look so cool. And with all the interactions with how Silver Team would fight the Covenant on this battlefield was just so cool to see. It was real Spartans. I love how they're just like running so fast and they're like getting in the Warthog and getting out of the Warthog and just being so maneuverable. And it's what we would expect from Spartans in a live action TV show. And they just killed it. They nailed it. They knocked the battle scene out of the park. Also, I want to draw attention to the fact that Master Chief kept his helmet on for most of the episode. Sure, he's going to take it off every now and then, and I'm just getting more used to the fact that he's not going to keep it on as long as I want to, so I'm trying to get past that. It's something I disagree with creatively, but I'm just trying to get past that because they're just going to keep doing it. They really are. And I've already talked about how he takes it off at weird times, even in this episode. But when he had it on, that was the Master Chief that we know and love. That was the Master Chief that was stoic. He was standing there imposing, intimidating, just by his presence alone. Just subtle movements, how he would move his helmet back and forth, looking around. That was just so good. But then we take it to when he's in the battlefield, and he's that sort of like dry humor Master Chief that we know in Halo 2, where he scares a grunt. He did that in this episode too, where he steals the Warthog back from a grunt, and it was a very comical sequence, but it wasn't overdone. It was just the right amount. So you just got to give credit where credit's due. I feel like this episode they did a better job at capturing Master Chief than any other episode so far. And aside from Master Chief, the stuff going on with the Spartans with Silver Team this time around was just so much more compelling and interesting than other episodes prior. Just the interactions just made it so believable that these guys have been working together for a long time, that there's respect for each other, but because there's this emotional suppressant that's being taken out of two of them now, they're starting to be a little bit of strain, but they still work very effectively as a team. And I don't know, I find it compelling and I find it enjoyable. I don't know why, but Silver Team actually, while they're not quite of what I would have wanted from Blue Team, if they were to get a live action representation, they're doing pretty good. I feel like the actors involved are really killing it with their roles, and I feel like I like Silver Team. I want to see more of Silver Team. And now let's talk about the side plot though. I like Soren plenty, but I'm still not getting on board with Qua. Like I want to like her. I want to like her story. I want to like her character, but the whole magical subplot is just, it's not doing it for me. I was thrilled when we found out Soren was going to be represented in this show. I thought that idea of a rogue Spartan was just so fascinating, and I love that they're doing that. And when he's on screen, it's pretty good. But just the whole story they're going through with those two, right now it's not for me. Especially in this episode, I feel like it was a little bit more interesting in last episode because we got some action with the two. But this episode, they were just stuck in the desert, so they just took a back seat, and I'm just not really, I'm not vibing with her. I'm just not vibing with her, okay? I do want to say here, though, that there's been plenty of Halo books I've read where I didn't really care for the subplot or minor things that are going on with the story. So I can't really fault the show too much because that happens with other Halo content as well. So I'm not going to hold the show to a standard I wouldn't hold the books or games to. I think that would just be kind of unfair and ridiculous because there's things in those materials that I just don't care for, but yet I still like those things. So I think that's totally fine that I don't care for this subplot, but might walk away after the season and still enjoy the whole season overall. I think this episode will be the episode that you show to your friends or family and be like, okay, this is what you want to get your taste of Halo, the TV show with, because this will give you the best sense of where this is all going. And I hope that remains true. We still haven't seen the rest of the season, obviously, but so far I think this is how it's gonna be. I think you could easily show this to a friend or family member and say like, hey, look, this show is actually pretty decent. We're going to watch the first 4 episodes, but I just need you to see this battle sequence of where things are going so that way you can get a little bit more invested in it and know that there's better episodes coming. Because let's face it, there's plenty of series out there that we love that we've tried to show to a friend or family member and they're like, I'm just not feeling with it. And then you say, what? You say, oh, the first season is rough. Oh, the first few episodes are rough. So maybe that's what's happening with the Halo Paramount show. Maybe that's what's happening with it. And I would be very happy for that to be the case because I would love to say, okay, yeah, the first 4 episodes, they're pretty rough. But after that, it really starts going. And then imagine in a year when season 2 comes out, we'll be saying, yeah, the first few episodes were pretty rough, but once they get the artifact and then they start finding their way to the Halo ring, oh man, do things pick up. Wait till you see the Flood come in. Wait till the Arbiter comes in. There's so much untapped potential still with this show that I'm willing to wait it out and I'm willing to keep watching because I like a lot of what I see so far, so I want to stick with it. And I hope by season 2 they kind of iron out the messy stuff and they kind of take feedback from the fans on what we're digging and what we're not digging. And maybe they could write it in a way that makes sense with the story they've already gotten going on. Maybe there's something that happens to Master Chief that makes him want to keep his helmet on more often, and that's the Chief that we get used to, and that's the character development that he goes through. I think that's a really good way to go about it. But that's enough of my ramblings today, guys. I want to pass it off to you. What did you think of this week's episode? What do you think of the Halo TV show overall? Are you going to keep watching? Have you already stopped watching? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I want to give a huge thanks to my Patreon members, especially my ISO tier members, Joey Ferris and Mr. Pleb. Even when I'm not uploading as much as I'd like to, you guys continue to support and blow me away every single day. So thank you so much. We are going to be getting back to hopefully weekly uploads. I got the schedule for it now, so we should be back and rolling, and we should have smooth sailing from here on out. And I'm just really excited to be back in the saddle. But until next time, my friends, I'll see you online. Vanilla Soup out.